Well, hello and welcome. And thank you for joining us today for this important conversation featuring our Young Leader Award recipient, Cimajie Best. Our theme is empowerment, empowering a spirit of service. And we're exploring the importance of showing women how to tap into their true selves to be their best self. I'm Mary Valadez. I'm the Associate Vice President for Grants at Texas Women's Foundation. Before we do any introductions, just some housekeeping. One is all the forum conversations are being recorded, so all attendees can go back and watch all the different conversations that we're having. You'll receive a link, and you can use that to go and view them. Also, we will have some time for Q&A, so as we listen to these words of wisdom from our young leader, we want to be sure to have the opportunity to ask her any questions, because this is the future talking here. No pressure. So I'd like to introduce at this time our Young Leader Award recipient, Cimajie Best. Cimajie is an account executive with Allen Media. She is a trusted advisor to clients facing public affairs challenges, public relations opportunities, political elections, and landmark fundraising campaigns. As a skilled tactician in capacity building and stakeholder management, she is a strong racial equity advocate and program evaluator. Cimajie works with nonprofits, foundations, elected officials, and communities to create inclusive outcomes for all the parties involved. She's a staunch advocate for collaborations, partnerships, and collective impact approaches to producing change. Also joining us today is a servant in our community. Aimee Boone Cunningham is the president and CEO of the Boone Family Foundation, a highly experienced principal in the progressive movement. She leads the foundation's mission to create equity for women and girls, to drive innovation and justice for students in public schools, and to steward and create accessible green spaces. Aimee has led the charge supporting policies that impact women and families for many years, and has been recognized for her work on the staff of Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas and as board chair of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Aimee is also a Mora Women Helping Women Award recipient. Aimee, we appreciate you being here to moderate this thoughtful conversation.
Thank you so much, Mary. And before we get started, Cimajie, I have to acknowledge your beautiful mother.
Hey, Mom.
Let's all wave
That's
to
my
Cimajie's
mom,
mom. As women, we're all formed by our mothers, whether they are by family, by choice, by chance. So wonderful to have you to celebrate your amazing daughter. So Cimajie and I were just talking about walk-up music, and she said Dark Horse.
Yes.
But what I thought about when I was getting ready for our time today was Nina Simone. Oh, Nina Simone, young, gifted, and black.
Yeah.
That's you, man.
Don't start it off like this, Aimee. Come on.
So let's level set.
That's
And your sequins are only like a visual representation of your excellence. So I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I want to jump right in. I'm thinking about what W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in 1903 about being black in America. And he wrote, "It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder." And as you and I have talked, you have told me about how your dual consciousness as a young Black woman raised in Oak Cliff is your superpower. And I wonder if you can talk to us about what your superpower looks like, how that informs both your personal and professional success.
Yeah, for sure. Before I jump in, I should tell you guys, you're about to listen to a conversation that Aimee and I would probably have on a Tuesday, just regularly. So be prepared for what you might hear.
Like on a Tuesday at like 10:15 a.m.
Correct. Over like a glass of wine on FaceTime. First thing. And the second thing is I want to publicly thank you for being who you are. Right, for always championing me, for always sponsoring me, for encouraging me, for being intentional with your words. I really appreciate that. Because of your identity, I appreciate that. So, to your actual question, what you didn't know is when you wrote that quote was actually the basis for my senior thesis. When I say the title of it, it's gonna sound very brainy, like I'm very smart, but it's really not, and I'll explain in a second. So the title of my senior thesis was The Phenomenology of White Ignorance Reflected in Black Consciousness. And basically it was just about the fact that as Black people in America, where, you know, our culture is not that of the dominant, you know, what have you, when we show up in spaces, because people are ignorant of what we bring to the table, we're often overlooked. And that was something that I experienced being like this triple threat of being young, Black, and a woman. And so I realized one day I had a choice. I could shrink or I could show. I could shrink and like be this little, you know, daffodil in the corner who was, you know, seen and not heard, or I could show up, show out, and show off. And as you can see from my sequence, I decided to show. And it was also this realization that like, for every time I was overlooked or, you know, for every time they asked, well, who's leading this presentation? And assumed that it wasn't me. For every time they asked, who's in charge here? And assumed it wasn't me. There was also a time where, you know, conversations were had and they just assumed that it wasn't privy for me and I got to, you know, the leg up or what have you. Or because I was young and I was working with students, they would come to me to talk to me about things they wouldn't talk to anybody else. Or because I was a woman, I resonated differently with this group than a man would have. And so just realizing that when I dare to show up in a space as myself, wholly and fully, my authenticity is my activism. And that's where my cape came from, you know, that's where I found myself.
That's so powerful. But I also want to, and if we can move on if this doesn't feel safe or comfortable for you to talk about, but the cost that it takes as a young Black woman to talk about your identity and to be working, you know, to sort of paraphrase your words, white ignorance. That must be a struggle in your personal and professional life. Do you want to talk about that? We don't have to if you don't want to.
It's a straddling of two worlds, one I think most people of color in here are probably familiar with on some level, right? It's me living in South Oak Cliff, but going to school on the edge of Highland Park at Hillcrest all of my life. It's like being a very proud Oak Cliffian. Hello. It's me, yeah, being a very, very proud Oak Cliffian. But also like being able to sit back, listen, and I guess understand that like one of my college professors told me this and I never forgot it, that it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And so as I'm in these other spaces with people who don't look like me, who don't believe like me, like taking in what they believe, rolling it around in my brain, do I jive with this, do I not? If not, why? Can I accept this? Taking what I want and then leaving the rest and going forth into the world with that, like, and leading with that, like all are welcome here, it's this inclusive space. I think that's where we find the good stuff.
I absolutely love the kind of inclusive yet disruptive leadership that you're talking about.
I think it takes both.
Yeah.
I think it takes both.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I admire about you most, like long list, right, is the way that in talking about inclusive, disruptive leadership, the way you also talk about being a servant leader, and the way that you talk about creating a model of activism, of empowerment that provides power to folks who are closest on the ground to the problem that they are saying needs solving, whether it's access to healthcare, higher education, economic empowerment, and doing the work to allow folks closest to the problem to design the solution. And as we both know and we've talked about extensively, that is not a model that white-led philanthropy, which is created in white supremacy and designed to perpetuate systemic racism, is like built to fix. And so can you say a little bit more, like how have you come to be such a powerful activist in this way, and what do you think the future of this looks like for you?
Being okay being in the back of the room and listening. I think oftentimes we get so excited to solve the problem that we want to jump up and say, oh, I know how to do this, like I got the answer, but shut up, you know, and listen and take it in and glean. And then also, like, full candor, recognizing your privilege, because we all have privilege on some level, right? Like, even me as a Black woman, my light-skinnedness is a privilege within my community and the world. I know that I'm treated far differently than a dark-skinned woman is. And so recognizing that my Christianity is a privilege in America and recognizing that. And so when I can look at the problem objectively, when I can see my privilege objectively, and then I've listened and taken into account what everybody in the community has to say, like what they believe, what they've experienced, and center that, right? Like that, I guess, problem-centered design or project-centered design to the solution. I think is that not the smartest way to do it? In my mind, that's just how it should be. Like,
It is how it should be.
You know? Like, I wouldn't come to your house, Aimee, and say, I am going to cook for you and Ed. I don't know what food allergies you and Ed have. I don't know where your pots are. I don't know what you had for dinner last night. You might have had spaghetti last night, and I want to make spaghetti today. Why would I come in here as if I know the answer and I don't? Like, let me sit back and listen and learn for a second, and respect the space. Like, not come in here as a savior, as if I know all and, you know, have been through all, but I respect you enough as a human, right, at base level. I might not agree with you politically, ideologically, religiously, whatever, but I respect you enough at base level as a human to say, what's going on? How can I help? How can I be of service, right? And not hearing what you say and then regurgitating my own version of that, but hearing what you say, taking it and say, okay, let's do that. Cut your mic already. We're already in trouble.
So I'm hearing you say that the visual representation for me, and you're probably too young to remember this, is the commercials with the Kool-Aid Man in like
breaking through the wall,
like bursting into the wall, being like, "Oh yeah," and
100%.
like white philanthropy bursting through the wall, being like, we know the answer to the problem, even though you didn't tell us this was the problem.
We know we don't live here, we don't operate here, we don't go to church here, but this is going to be the solution for you guys.
Yeah, it's not
like,
great.
I don't think.
Let's do better. So one of the things that really struck me as we were talking about what this, you know, your vision for change, your vision for the service that you provide, is that you talk to me about the idea of I am third. And I love that as a centering element of your personal and professional life. Can you share what that's like for you, what that means to you?
Yeah, this is a super personal moment. So we're officially family, everybody in this room, if you didn't know. So my grandfather, my very best friend in the whole world, he taught me I am third when I was very young. I forget how young. My grandfather was like the only person I knew who actually sent money to the kids in Africa on the commercials. Like he was that person. Like had her picture, and like we wrote letters to her all the time. And so that's just the kind of man my grandfather was. And he taught me this idea of I am third. And he felt like if everyone put God first, their neighbor second, and themselves third, then the world would be a better place. There would be no hunger because everyone would be considered. There would be no homelessness because everyone, you know, would be thought of. And when he passed away, I got that on my arm as a constant reminder to myself and how I live my life, right? Like, so when I'm in my prayer time and I'm thinking to myself and I'm praying, okay, and I think about what I just prayed for. Okay, is that going to change the entire world or just my world? Am I going to have the car of my dreams and the man of my dreams and the body of my dreams and the shoes of my dreams? Or will we have an answer to the crisis in Gaza? Will the war in the Congo finally be figured out, you know? Or will my, 2-block radius, will that just be better? And so when I think like that, that's what's kind of at the heart of why I do what I do. And this idea that, like, you don't have to have much to give. You just have to care. Yeah.
One of the things that is so powerful to me is that with what you just mentioned, with what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in the Congo, what's happening in Yemen, what's happening with unhoused people in the United States, with people who are food insecure, is how to hold on to hope, how to stay centered in the idea of doing good work and the way that that can fuel you, your body, your soul, your heart. Beyond what you've just described with your faith, which I know is really powerful for you, what is it that, what when you look, like you open the newspaper in the morning, or probably your phone, and you're like, oh no, oh terrible, oh.
Oh my gosh.
What is it that lets you turn that off and is like, you know what, I'm gonna go out and do good in the world?
First of all, I do not look at my phone first thing in the morning because instant anxiety sets in. Like, if I have an alert from like CNN,
See, you're so
New York
smart.
Times, Washington Post, I'm like, oh, something bad has happened. I'm just not even gonna look. But I think what keeps me going is this idea that, like, all the problems in the world are not mine to shoulder. I cannot, unfortunately, do anything about what's happening in the Congo right now today. What I can do right now today is take a plate to the homeless man on the corner. What I can do right now today is, when it's cold outside, drop off care packages of hats and gloves and socks. That's what I can do right now today. And I think if everybody just, like, stopped thinking about all the big problems, right, and just took off a bite-sized portion and did what they could, where they could, for whom they could, we would be in such a different place in our world. And it doesn't have to, I think the other idea is that people feel like they have to have a certain talent in order to give. If you do taxes, be the best CPA and give your tax services away for free. If you do horseback riding lessons, give horseback riding, like, whatever your thing is. If you're an MUA, do free makeup for prom. It doesn't have to be this, I think you have to be like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Let me tell you, I'm neither one of those people. Mother Teresa would blush if she saw some of the text messages me and my friends send, okay? So I'm not her. I just care.
No shade to Mother Teresa. She would
No
not be
shade, no
wearing the
tea.
sequins, and we would all be sad.
So yeah, we just have to care and do what we can, where we can, for who we can.
I think it's worth saying that, and no disrespect to the men who are in the room, that dudes primarily do not sit around saying, like, I can't solve every problem, so I can't solve any problem. No. That's a thing that women feel. And I think, in my experience, that a lot of women who, whether you're applying for a job, whether you're thinking about running for office, are like, if I don't have 100% of the qualifications plus 50%, I can't apply. And a lot of, again, forgive me, dudes are like, I have 30% of the qualifications, let's go.
Maybe, let's do it. And it's like, okay.
Okay, so Mary, I'm sorry, I have to ask this. Will we get to vote for you soon?
Oh my gosh,
is it now?
Hard pass. When I say hard pass, I mean the hardest of passes. I love to be the person in the background helping the person. Mm-hmm. Let me do that. Let me be the person behind the person.
Okay, obviously consent for everyone, but also, sorry, that's probably not the last time I ask you that. So one of the things that was really powerful to me when you were just describing your idea of I am third, the way that you can give back to your community, provide care and support for your family, your loved ones, is that it's really an expansive view of philanthropy and the way that we have in this country named philanthropy has been like very white, very steeped in white supremacy. And what you're talking about is much more, let's think about the ways that philanthropy, that everyone can be a philanthropist. So say more about that, because that's super powerful to me.
Yeah. So I guess a quick nerd moment. The word philanthropy, right? It comes from the Greek word philanthropia. First part, philo, is love. So we like Philadelphia, brotherly love. Philosophy, philo, love. Sophia, of knowledge. And so philanthropy just means love of mankind. And so anybody that cares about the person sitting next to them.
That's a deep take, man. I love it.
It's my philosophy nerd brain on 1,000. Anybody that cares about the person sitting next to them has the capacity to be a philanthropist if they care. And I keep saying if they care because I'm of the belief that you can't say you care about something if you're not willing to sacrifice for it. And so even if it's like, okay, I really want to donate this $100 to, this organization, I'm going to skip brunch. St. Anne isn't going to see me this Sunday. Like, no bottomless mimosas for me. Whatever, that's a sacrifice that you're making in order to be this philanthropist that you say you want to be. More so to your point about it being white-centric, it's institutionalized, right? In America, we think about philanthropy as very institutionalized. Part of that is because we haven't really studied, right, what like minority philanthropy looks like and how we show up in the philanthropic space. But particularly in Dallas, the Black church in Dallas runs on philanthropy, right? Our philanthropy looks like giving to our religious organizations. It looks like helping our family. If you're the high net worth earner in your family, if you're the six-figure earner in your family, it probably means you're supporting your family in some way or another. You're paying a light bill, you're paying daycare for somebody, and that too is a form of philanthropy. And so I think if everybody thought like there's a space for you there in philanthropy if you care for it to be, you too can jump feet first into the pool of philanthropy today if you want. Happy to find some organizations you can give to also.
And I think not only like creating that sort of expansiveness for people to say jump in at any place, but to say how can we disrupt what philanthropy looks like today? Like how can we make it more inclusive?
Oh, Gen Z is already doing that. Shout out to the kids. The kids are all right, okay? Gen Z, man. Studies are already showing that they are much less likely to give to traditional large nonprofits. Like they want to give to the grassroots thing. They want to know what % of their dollar is getting to the place. They want to see their dollars in action. And no movement in America, no social movement, no revolution has happened without the youth. And so I'm very excited to see like how they continue to shake things up. See, keep getting in trouble.
I know. Tape instructions to my arm, please. What is, when you think about movements of young people, or even young people, not even movements, like young people that you see doing the work, out in the world, what is the thing that you are most excited about? What's the thing that is really like, when you say the young people are right, what's the thing that you look at and you're like, then that's how I know?
So I'm a millennial. I gotta say that because people be thinking I'm a Gen Z and I'm not. I just look like this.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm Gen X, and the other ones, I'm like,
I don't know who you are. I know you just here. Yes. So I'm a millennial, and I'm what they call in the bridge generation, right? So that means I grew up without technology at one point in my life, where my mom was like, "No, go outside and hit a stick with a ball." And then I also, at one point in my life,
get a hoop,
put it on your arm. But at one point in my life, I also did have technology, right? And so being a part of the bridge generation, we're very special in that we know both tradition and disruption, if that makes sense, right? Like, so I grew up with a lot of tradition. My parents and my family will tell you I have an old soul because my mother had an old soul. And that's just, that came with tradition and structure and like regimen. But the kids today, right, Gen Z is growing up without tradition. They are bucking tradition. They're asking the questions like, okay, well, if this isn't working, why are y'all still doing it this way? And that is my favorite thing about them because I'm like, you are right. Why are we doing it this way? This hasn't been working. yeah, what he say? Why are we doing that? And I really appreciate that about them, their brazenness to ask the question. And when you get a crop of them and they find that you actually care about them and believe in them, they will come to you and ask all the questions in the world, right, to help do the thing that they want to do. And so, yeah, their disruptive nature. I like that.
I love what you just said, because my background in healthcare, there's a little bit of like, well, it all started in 1987, and you know,
We've always done it this way, and it's like it's always not worked. So why are you still doing it?
Gen Z kids who are like, what?
Yeah. Correct.
But as many of you all know, we had, thank you, Mary, we had 200 plus young women here in this space today for the Best Self programming that the Texas Women's Foundation has done now for the last couple of years to empower girls in middle school and high school to help them prepare to be disruptors. If you were on stage talking to them right now, and you had a bunch of young women who were like, I want to do what Cimajie is doing. I want to be as successful as her. I want to be like as disruptive as she is. What's the advice that you would give them?
Two things. The first is find your why, like why you do what you do. So for me, quick story time. I think I have time for this, Mary. I promise I'll be quick. Okay.
You got the mic and no one can take it away from you, so let's do this.
Lock the doors. My 3-time great-grandmother was a slave on the land that my family still owns and works today in North Carolina. Wow. My great-great-grandmother taught herself how to read from the newspaper clippings that were on, like that lined the cupboards in their home. Wow. My grandmother was one of the first Black nurses at Sibley Memorial in DC. Wow. My mother had me when she was 19. For all intents and purposes, she was not supposed to, do anything after being a teen mom. She went on to teach kids around the world, from Kuwait to Guatemala. And so when I look at this line, right, this through line of farmer / sharecropper, maid, because my grandmother's also a maid at the Statler, where she couldn't stay because she was a Black woman, but she was a maid there, servant, worker. My grandmother a nurse, servant. My mother a teacher, servant. There's been this through line of servants my entire life. Unfortunately, my great-great-greats didn't have an option for what their servitude looked like. I do. Yep. And so I get to choose what my servant leadership looks like and how I show up, and that's my why, right? Continually closing that gap because of the shoulders I stand on. I have to. Like, there is no choice there. So I would tell them to find their why and lean in and anchor into that for the days where you want to say, I'm done. Like, forget this, because those days will come. They always do. But when you think about somebody sacrificed for me to be here, like somebody made sure, I could stand here today and do this, then you can keep going a little further. So find your why. And the other thing is, like, say the thing, do the thing, try the thing, jump further, go harder, fly, like, just do it. Throw yourself at it full force. You'll be surprised what comes out of it, who comes to your rescue, who comes to be your ally, who shows up for you. And the worst thing that could happen is you tried. And then you try again, So don't be afraid, just do it.
I love the way you're talking about taking the idea of being a servant and putting that on its head. Yeah. Being like, so you can disrupt, that you can say, being, for what I've heard you say this afternoon, this evening, whatever time it is. That's a way that you lead in power.
Absolutely. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah. And I just, what you've just shared about the way that you, what I'm hearing you say is you feel your ancestors' hand on your back.
Oh, yeah.
All
They're
the
on stage with me
time.
right now.
Yeah.
Whispering the things, telling the things. because I come from a long line of women, I have a very like strong matriarchal line in my family. And the idea has always been to build longer tables and not higher fences.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like, I might not have a lot, but what I have, you're welcome to. Like, my grandmother's house, all my friends know on Sunday, that's where I am. You can come get a plate, you can come eat, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not because we have so much, we live in excess. No, it's because we care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And want to invite people in and welcome them into that space.
God,
Please don't cry, because then I'm going to cry, and then it's going to be all bad.
I cry all the time, so I wish you all the best. And I think it's, Mary, we have some time for questions.
Okay. Sorry.
We do. What a wonderful conversation. And you can just see the friendship because you finish each other's sentences. It's wonderful. Thank you. We do have some time for questions. Does anyone have a question? And I will bring the mic over to you. Here we go.
Hi, my name is DeShayla. So my question is, we talk a lot about sacrifice, so how do you find the balance of when you stop and take care of you? Because it's always easy to sacrifice a lot for others and put others first, but how do you take care of you?
It's crazy that you came in yelling like this, asking me these questions. My goodness. I've had to like block time off and be intentional about it, honestly. So like I wake up at 5 and go to the gym, and that's like a part of my self-care. My favorite part is when I get to the sauna and I can just sit and like I can pray about my day. I can talk to God and just be and have that solitude, that alone time. I'm an only child, so like self-care for me is just being able to be by myself in the quiet, in the silence. That's anywhere, like, and I love that. So just being intentional about blocking off that time, because it's never gonna happen if you don't make it happen, right? Like there's always something. And I'm like, okay, maybe at 5 a.m. my phone won't ring and nobody will be in crisis and I can like handle myself. Yeah.
I have a microphone. Let's see.
You're not gonna hear my
Do I have a hand up? Here we have one.
What do you like to do for fun?
I am a bookworm and I am a traveler. Yes. I'm gonna hop on a plane and I'm gonna read a book. I just got into fiction this year, so I'm usually a nonfiction person. I'm a very a serious reader, so I want to read for facts. Like I want to know the things. But this year, one of my goals was to read more fiction just for the love of reading. I told you my mother was a teacher. She was an English teacher, so books were like, and she was a single parent, so there was like the cheap, easy, fun thing for me to do on the weekends was go to the library. So I'm getting into thrillers. That's my new jam. If you got any thriller girlies in the crowd, let me know what you're reading.
Can I just piggyback on that? First of all, shout out to libraries, librarians.
Yes.
The best. What is the next trip that you are most excited about?
The next trip that I'm most excited about, I'm going back to Seattle to go, yes, I'm so excited to go back. I didn't get to go, I'm a water baby also, I love the water, and I'm getting scuba certified this summer. And so I'll be able to do one of my dives in Seattle, and I'm very excited about that. I haven't told my mother that, and so she's probably like, what? But yes, that is what I'm most excited about.
She's giving you the look.
She's like, you're doing, huh? With who? Where? Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about.
Hi, Cimajie. I'm Erin Ragsdale.
Hi, Erin.
Thanks for being here today. What is your biggest failure, and what lesson did you learn from it? I know you haven't had many, so you'll have to think about this.
Right.
But what did you learn from it?
Biggest failure. I will tell you. Is Janet in here? I feel like I saw her walk in. Okay. She's laughing because she already knows. I don't know how old I was, but I was working for Janet in Vickery Meadow, and I was working for the summer camp as Eagle Scholars. And I loved it. My kids were great. We did journalism. We produced this awesome yearbook at the end of the summer. It was a blast. However, there was this girl, okay? We did not see eye to eye. We were not having a blast. And one day, like, I lost it. Like, lost my cool. Attitude was on 1,000, and it was not my best professional moment. Janet, like, brought us in. We talked about it, resolved it, because the summer was coming to a close anyway. So it was like, okay. Well, fast forward now, I'm ready to go look for jobs, right? right? I know, right? Thank God Janet forgives, as does the Lord. But I called Janet and I was like, hey, I'm applying for these jobs and like I need a reference. And she was like, you know, like you're great, you had a great summer, the kids really loved you, but like I can't refer you for that. She was like, based on what happened, like I can't in good faith, like, cause that's not the character of a person that, you know? And I had to take that to the chin and be like, oh my God. Like this is gonna sound really conceited, but I'm not used to being bad at stuff, guys. My last name is Best, okay? And so when she told me no, I was like, oh, consequences have actions have consequences, you say. Okay. Thankfully, I was like able to get past that. I was able to learn from that moment to not lose my cool, to have some regulatory practices when times get tough. And Janet and I repaired our relationship, and she's one of my favorite people to this day. So thank you, Janet.
Okay, so
Hi, I'm Iris Wilcox. I just love all the things I'm hearing today. I have a question for you, though. You talked about the Gen Zs, you talked about the millennials. We have said it takes a village. So what do you see? How do you see incorporating the Gen Zs, well, all of them up to the baby boomers who are still here, still a part of the village, and able, you know, yes, there have been some things that have been done that haven't worked, but perhaps there's a way to bring everyone together. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think it takes both, right? It takes both of us, and both of us, all of us, being willing to listen and learn from each other. Because surely it hasn't been sustained this long by, you know, there not being some bit of wisdom or knowledge there. And it takes us being able to have open dialogue, cross races, cross generations, cross nationalities, cross all the borders that would stand to, you know, keep us apart, right? And being able to say, oh, well, I never thought about that. Or, you know, we used to do it this way, but now we have this to do it this way. And I think we could streamline it by doing it that way. And just being willing to learn. I think the willingness to learn and the willingness to be wrong. And third, and my God, most important, the willingness to say, I don't know. Most people are afraid to say, I don't know, because they feel like it makes them less than, not realizing saying, I don't know is the beginning of wisdom. Like, that's where you begin to know, when you can admit that you don't. That's how you learn. So, yeah.
Hi, Cimajie. It's Danny.
Hey, Danny.
You're going to have to let me borrow that jumpsuit, by the way.
Have it, yours.
So we talked about servitude and that you get to decide where you put that time in. How do you delegate that? Working in the nonprofit world and working with so many organizations, how can you actively give the best of your time to what you think is worth it, but without neglecting others?
Yeah. Somebody recently asked me, do you only support organizations that, you know, impact Black people? And I was like, well, no. One,
that's a lazy question.
right? Like, come on, do your research. One, no, that's the short answer. But my question back to them was, well, as much as I love, whales are my favorite animal, so like conservationists, whoop, whoop. I was like, as much as I love whales, and it pains me that the ice caps are melting and that our oceans are warming and that, you know, emissions are high, what does that matter if I'm shot in the street for being a Black woman? It doesn't. And so, no, I don't only support those organizations, but those are very important to me because that's how I experience the world, and that's how the world experiences me. So yes, I spend a lot of my time there, but no, it's not the only place. And so, like most people, I give my time to organizations that have impacted my life in some way. So whether that's a mental health organization like a Metro Care, or a education organization like a Fort Oak Cliff or a CIS, something like that, where I've seen the impact and it's disproportionately, impacted myself or my family.
We have one more question. I'm sorry. Let's see.
I'm gonna, and then I'm gonna take a point of personal privilege to close, but last question.
Hi, Cimajie, I'm Thana. What was the defining moment in your life when you realized that you would live a life of service and be a disruptor? What was that moment that happened for you to where you even walked into this space?
True story? I think I'm still figuring that out every day, right? Like, because to me, I'm just being me. Like, because of some of the things that I say and some of the things I do just seem so common sense and like common courtesy, like one human to another, it's like, oh, well, yes, we should do this. If we're talking about equity, if this is what we really say we want to do, then we should do this. At a very young age, though, my mom, in addition to being a teacher, worked for AmeriCorps, and so she worked at the Trinity River Mission. And so I saw her being in service in West Dallas at a very young age and what that looked like for her. And so I think it was always a through line, like I said, in my life. But for me, I think I'm still discovering it every day because I'm just showing up to do the work.
So I know we need to wrap up. I have to ask you, do you have a motto as an activist, organizer, person in your community? Beyond, I know you said I'm third, but.
I don't say I have a motto, but my mission in life is to close the opportunity gap for people furthest from justice. And so any job I take, any role I'm looking at, I'm wondering how I can do that if I take this role. Who is not in the room that I can bring in the room with me to help, whether that's education equity, health equity, gender equity, whatever that looks like, how can I close that opportunity gap for them?
What a wonderful way to end this wonderful conversation. I'm honored, I'm privileged to have been here today and to recognize Cimajie Best as our Young Leader Award recipient tonight. Yes. Cimajie, thank you for all the work, your trailblazing work, and everything that you'll be doing in the future, because I know you will. And Aimee, thank you for all the activism, for your advocacy, and all the work that you do in the community. You're both a treasure to all of us. And if you want to know more about all the women who are being honored today, you can visit our website, TXWFleadership.org, or just go to the QR code in the program and you can find all the information there.